I was a mess, like physically, emotionally. And so it was like, then I just kind of applied what I felt in my NDE, and I was like, anything's possible. And I just disregarded, everyone's predictions about what my body was going to be like or what was my future. And I was like, well, they don't know the possibilities, they don't understand. So I would just focus on that, and also remember that, like, basically my consciousness is powerful, and in the vibration of love, miracles happen, healing happens, and just remembering that at a base level.
I'm excited to be here with Dr. Allison Snowden today. Dr. Allison Snowden is a renowned healer, coach, medical intuitive, and master theta healing expert with over 15 years of experience serving thousands of clients and students from around the world. Dr. Snowden's passion and drive for energetic healing are anchored in her own transformation from a near-death experience, which prompted her quest for healing. As a result, she experienced a complete transformation of her being and her understanding of the nature of reality. Dr. Snowden, thank you so much for being here today. I'm really honored and blessed to have you.
Thank you so much. I love any opportunity to talk about this, so thank you so much.
Well, it means a lot to me, and I appreciate you sharing your story because it helps so many. Every story is unique, and every story helps change the world. That's really what you're doing, is helping to change the world and giving people a new outlook on life and death and everything in between. So
Yes,
it means
yes,
a lot.
thank you.
So let's go ahead and start with your near-death experience. You had a remarkable experience that changed your entire life.
Yes. Yes. So it actually will be, it's March 29th, 1999. So I'm coming up on the 25th anniversary. So yeah, big. It's a big one. So the context of I always like to share a little bit about, like, before my near-death experience, because what my experience, my older sister had cancer. And so death was brought up like when I was 6 years old. So I was around that and the possibility of my sister dying. And I actually went to a lot of kids' funerals because it was in the 80s. And, a lot of her friends died. My sister is still alive, so everyone always asks about that. So she's still alive, so she made it. However, seeing kids, innocent kids die, and then also the suffering that created within the families, and then also seeing the amount of trauma and pain that my sister went through and suffering by going through cancer treatment really triggered an existential crisis in me. And also what triggered that is what our oldest cousin died in a car accident, just, very out of the blue. So he was 22, I was 14. And so from 6 to 14, I'd been witnessing, innocent kids, dying of cancer. And then the oldest cousin, like, one night fell asleep at the wheel and flipped his car and had, 3 different life ending injuries, like crushing his sternum, breaking his neck. And so then that happened. So I was around in 8th, 9th grade. And, I was like, what reality am I living in? And I always had a deep connection, I feel like, with the unseen world. I grew up Catholic, but my parents weren't deeply religious and spiritual. And so I always felt that. And I always felt, like, just a curiosity of what is life about, and what am I doing here? Who am I? I just remember just kind of having that always within me. And so before my NDE, there was a lot of death. My cousin died, and I just started to pray. I started to pray to God. And I'm like, I want to understand what this is about. And I just prayed really hard. I want to understand. And my cousin dying in a car accident that was pretty, violent. I I also was scared of like what was it like for him, because all the other deaths that I've been around, it was uh, you know, kids dying of cancer and people are all around and people get to say their last words, but his was different because it was all out of the blue, sudden, and traumatic. So I was praying to God like every night. I was saying, watch what you pray for. I was saying I want to understand the meaning of life. I want to understand what it feels like to die. I want to understand what happens after death. Because no one's answer really satisfied me. And this was back in 99, so the internet wasn't as big as it is now. And so I was just praying, 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 praying. And I think I prayed for like a year and a half. And I got to experience death. So some people ask, like, oh, why did this happen to you? And I'm like, well, there's many reasons why, and I'll get into it after. There's a couple more reasons why this happened that was revealed during the NDE. So the context of, and I like to share with your audience that in my NDE, I had zero physical pain. It went really quickly. And so I always like to tell anyone whose loved ones were, in a car accident or any violence inflicted, that they can rest in their heart that their loved one didn't suffer, because I didn't feel any pain, like while it was happening. And so I always like to say that because I know I worried about my cousin suffering by himself before he died. And that was not my experience at all. So I just like to say that. So the context of my NDE, I was in Mexico for my older sister's spring break, who, this is the cancer survivor. She ended up not going to her senior spring break because she was in the hospital a couple weeks before, and her infectious disease doctor was like, she can't go to Mexico. So my parents had already paid for everything. And so we went, and I got separated from my friend. And so I was assaulted, sexually assaulted by a group of men. And then somehow I was run over by a motor vehicle. They said by my injuries, they were probably going about 60 miles per hour. So I was in and out of consciousness, and I didn't feel any. I can remember the assault, however, and I was fighting, but I didn't feel any pain. And so I was fighting, and then all of a sudden I was out of my body. And so I remember I was pretty high up. I wasn't like hovering over my body. I was like, probably, it was a very high view of what was happening. And so it was like I just saw my body just lifeless. And I ruptured my tibial artery, so I bled out a lot. So I just remember seeing, this body that I'm in right now, just there, lifeless and blood all around. And my soul, my spirit, my consciousness, which is who we really are, was like, oh, I'm dead. And I was like, oh, I was kind of like, oh, that really, shoot, and it was kind of like my soul wasn't really, I don't know, that surprised. But so there was the whole human drama that was going on with after that had happened. And it was kind of like I wasn't really invested in the drama that was happening on Earth. My soul was just absorbing being in this vibration. Some people call it heaven. I call it the divine frequency. And heaven is not a place, it's a vibration. Some NDEers are in the astral realm. I was just in this energetic realm. So I didn't see like like a actual human forms, which is sometimes people in the astral realm, you see that. So mine was just consciousness. So it was my energy, and it was just unconditional love. And I always tell people that it is the amount of love that you have felt here as a human being, and you times it by like 500 billion trillion. It is just so expansive and so loving, and it feels like home. And it is beyond time and space. So some people are like, oh, how long were you dead? You know, like we didn't get official records from Mexico because I was pretty critically ill, and it was like they had to get me out of the country. But I always say I was dead enough for them to arrest someone for manslaughter. Not dead enough, I woke up in the ambulance. So, I felt like I was out of my body for a long time because on that dimension, there is no time and space. So everything is just there. And so I just felt completely at home, at peace, and everything from that vantage point is known. I remembered a lot of things because a lot of times we are such infinite beings, but I don't know if it's the human design of it, but we forget a lot of things when we're incarnated. So I always say we remember specific things. So when I was in that space, I remembered why I chose my parents. And I also remembered they were like, oh, do you want to look at your past lives? There is like a library, an energetic library of my past lives. And I was like, I also remembered that like in between lifetimes, I had studied myself, which was really interesting, had gone through my past lives um, and studied and tried to and wanted to see like what I wanted to learn. So it was my impression that, and I'd never been exposed as a 15-year-old and no internet, like much when I was growing up. I was raised in Missouri, so reincarnation was never, the idea was never exposed to me. So I came back after that experience, like I was like knowing about reincarnation. People are like, oh, believing. And I'm like, no, just knowing, because like I had the evidence and it was very clear. Um, so that was pretty profound for that shift to happen because I was never exposed to it. And I was just in that space and I didn't know where I ended, and the boundaries of consciousness were very blurred. So I was aware that I was self-aware, and there was other energies or other souls that weren't like self-aware. and but there was no judgment. So it seems that there were different stages of evolution of these different energies or souls. However, like everyone was equally as valued. So there wasn't like a hierarchy, like, oh, you're an older soul or higher vibration or have lived more lives. It was a very like everyone is equally as valued and loved and as a part of it, just as you would not judge a baby for just crawling and not running and, you know, speaking 5 languages. There was younger souls there, and it was just this affinity and this like very non-hierarchy, unconditional love awareness. And what else? Oh, the other messages that were very strong and downloaded were that in regards to like, it was like, this is who you are. So for example, like you're not your physical body, you're not your accomplishments, you're not, you know, who most people think you are. Like this is who you are. So that energetic, that consciousness, that invisible aspect that animates people's really their identity and their soul, and that is eternal. And even though we physically die, that part of what makes a person, that the energy of the person is eternal. So, and also what was shown is like our true nature is this unconditional love, this vibration. And when what was shown is love yourself, love others, like that's all that matters. And it was like us humans, we get very much maybe attached or really focused on maybe the other aspects of our life. And there's no shame in that, but always remembering that how you, or at least I guess how my soul was going to be not judging or evaluating my life, was how much did I love myself and love others and live from that spot. And that really is basically like all that matters. And it's almost like everything else can distract you from that. And really when you die, because all of us are born and die. And after you die in your consciousness, you're in this space, God isn't judging you, you're evaluating yourself. So I was 15 at the time, so I didn't have like a life review, but it was very apparent to me that everything, this might scare people or not, I don't know what reaction, but this makes me feel very seen and heard and safe and secure, that everything in the universe is recorded. So it was very apparent, and it was shown to me that everything, so thoughts, intentions, actions, perspectives, like all different dimensions of your experience and of the experience that you maybe have had with another person is recorded. So the truth is very much known on a very deep level. And even though like maybe you can fool yourself of the truth of something, or, you know, there's maybe not justice here on earth, but it is known like all aspects. So there is no hiding from that like divine consciousness, the divine consciousness and that intelligence that is the creation of everything, knows everything. And so for me, that was very healing, because I think sometimes as humans we can see, you know, things don't work out, or maybe people don't see our true intentions or things, you know, it's life. And for me, when that was revealed to me, that just was very healing and calming. And then also just just that we are this love, and for us to remember and to more deeply hold that as who we are, and to embody that. And so I felt like I was up there for infinite time, because there is no time. So that's the other interesting thing is if when you lose someone on earth, it is devastating, and there's grief, and there's this perceived feeling that you've lost something, or that someone is gone. And it is true, because their physical body is no longer there, and there is a loss of having someone's like physical presence not there. However, like their energy and their consciousness, that can't be destroyed. It's just in another level. It is not, they're not in their physical body. It doesn't mean that they're gone forever. So I think that's really healing too. But I also want to validate the extreme grief of not having a person physically there, because that is a different feeling. However, like I think just knowing that they're in a different dimension, and also inviting anyone who's listening to invite this in. I always tell people who've lost anyone, like, call it in. If you want to communicate with them, ask for it, intend for it, pray for it. And it will happen. And I think some people who are not spiritual, or they're like, I had talked to like someone who is a science, they'd never thought about this type of stuff. And so they felt like, oh, who am I to? And I'm like, no, like we're all connected. And it's actually almost an illusion that we're separate, because we all are connected in one. There's this illusion of separateness between you and me, by our physical bodies, probably, time and space, but really that's an illusion. So like what the truth is, our true identity is that we're all connected, we're all one. We have this perception of separation in this earth plane, and that can cause a lot of suffering. But also being incarnated, we can learn and grow our soul as well. And I think that is also the purpose of life. Yeah, so I'm not afraid to die. And also the mode of death. So if you can imagine, like my whole side was like broken, crushed. So like my jaw was broken in 4 different places. My arm was in like hundreds of pieces. Most of my ribs were broken. My pelvis was broken in 4 different places. And then my lower leg was double compound fracture. So it came out of the leg and ruptured my artery. So I bled out a lot. So there was a lot of physical trauma, and I didn't feel any pain. And I actually didn't feel any pain because I think my body was in shock. So I decided to come back. I felt pain probably like an hour after, and it was still like a little bit, I still think then when I got back to the States, then I really started to feel a lot of pain. And then I was like, what did I choose? God has a sense of humor. Your soul has a sense of humor. And I was like, I was in the hospital and I was like, maybe I made a mistake. I was like, can I go back? Because this is really painful. Like, I was like, and my guides and God was like, nope, you chose this. And yep. And my guides and God, or that, divine knowing, was like, yeah, you're going to be like in a lot of pain for the next 10 years. So just, pace yourself. And I was like, I was like, what did I sign up for? And they're like, 10 years is nothing, and I was like, so I knew I had like a very long road ahead. And that was daunting. So I'm very happy to be on the other side of, I'm not in pain anymore, mentally, emotionally, physically. It was a very painful road to get here. But I also, before I came back, and so like once you decide to come back, it's like, it's like a quick, you're back in your body. And God, creator, God, that goes through however many names, was like, oh, this vibration of unconditional love, like bring it down. And I can remember being what? What is there like a manual for, like for my soul mission of how to do that? Because that, I feel like whenever I talk about my NDE, putting words, linguistics to it, I feel like lowers the vibration, because it's this feeling that is beyond words, that is indescribable. And it's just this absolute loving presence that words can't even contain it. And when I even try to contain it through words, I feel like it brings down the vibration. So, but that is what was revealed to me, is that is what God is. That is really our inherent nature. And life is really just remembering that within ourselves and within others. And I think that's where, a lot of, so remembering who we are and the truth of who we are, and not thinking, a lot of pain and suffering, I call it false pain and suffering, can be attributed to, thinking that we're separate, thinking that we end after physical death, thinking that we are, our bank account, we are our external accomplishments. Really the only thing that you bring over from lifetime to lifetime is, what you learn, the things that you grow, and experience and expand in this life. You can't bring your titles, you can't bring your money, or physically what you are, but your consciousness grows or expands through experience.
There's a lot happening to you there. And you felt like it wasn't really a big deal, I think, when you first left your body and you're looking down at this
Yeah.
disaster of your body. It was in bad condition and broken and bleeding, and
Yeah.
you were in complete
I was
peace
like,
and calm.
oh, it was very, and the weird, yeah, my soul's thing was like, oh, okay. And it was like, oh, wow. Because it happened it happened, I came out so fast. So I was like, oh, wow, oh, this is happening. And then I got absorbed with like what the consciousness of love. And I know some NDE stories, they get really focused on what's going on Earth, which is great, because I've talked to some NDEers and they could like tell exactly what was happening, like when they were out, like when they were, heart stopped. I was just kind of like, I'm in vacation mode in heaven. Like there was like, I was aware of what was happening a little bit. Also, I would like to share, um, I was aware also, so you can have your consciousness in many different kind of areas, but I was really focused on just being in the energy and then remembering certain things and being downloaded. However, like I did really, there was one person that was helping my body when I was when it was in a bad condition. And I can just remember this man, his heart was like breaking, and he had just the kindest energy towards like my physical body. So I always like to share, like anytime I'm around, you know, an accident or anything like that, I just send so much love to whoever's there because they can feel that. And you know, that is not, that is, like I was saying, that is noted and that is felt. And I think when you're in vulnerable positions like that, like people can really either, you know, comfort you or really scare you. So that was really, I remember that person. There was no, there, I didn't feel any pain. There was no fear. And yeah, it was like, I, it was just this knowing that that was like, that was my physical body, but it didn't really faze me, the drama of it. And and then it was just like, oh, you know, this unconditional love, this power. And I guess like that's the other thing I wanted to circle back to is like the unconditional love is like this power of creation and who we are, this like high vibrational energy, and it's in the space like anything's possible. And so that was really pivotal for me to feel and to remember, because when I was back in my body and I was going through all these surgeries and going through, you know, talking to different experts and doctors, because I was, you know, a teenager when this happened. Hadn't done any advanced study. Um, and they were like, you're going to be in pain the rest of your life. We don't know when you're going to heal. You know, I was an athlete. I was a horseback rider. I was a runner. They were like, you know, doctors were very, you know, realistic. And I think if I hadn't remembered my being in that field of unconditional love, I may have accepted or internalized their predictions of me just having like a painful life for the rest of my life. Oh, you're going to get arthritis when you're older. You're always going to be in pain. And I was like, no, like the energy that I felt of who I was, anything's possible, and that energy can heal my body. And I just like very much internalized that and disregarded what the experts were saying. And I'm like, that's your opinion, but like, I know I can heal. And so I really think, so applying that unconditional, when I was going back into my body, creator or God was saying, bring this energy, you know, to earth, to the planet. And I was like, what? Well, the first thing to apply the love to was to my physical body and to my physical healing. And so I did that. And I had a lot of surgeries, but it's actually like it's interesting. I was talking to a friend about this, and I mean, there's a lot of trauma, and my bones were really, really broken. Like one of my doctors, orthopedic surgeon, was like, we've you don't see shattered bones like this. You only see this on cadavers or someone who's had like brain dead. So it was really almost like a miracle, that like I had a contusion. Obviously I was knocked out, I had concussion, but I didn't lose any IQ points. You know, so I was really, the physical injuries were extensive, but actually, like I mean, I could have really, there's certain people I've met or heard of, and they have, you know, less injuries than me, and they had major brain issues, you know. So I had a lot of PTSD. Um, and then also with the NDE, then it's also like there's this whole opening of a spiritual portal even more. And so that's an interesting integration back into real life, acting as a human before. And you're like, wait, like most people don't know who we are, what we are, and then, energetically sensing things, knowing things. And so it was a lot to go through because you have the trauma to heal, but then you also have this spiritual awakening and you're back into your body, your life, but you're completely open and shifted. And that it was a lot to happen just all at once.
That is a lot to happen all at once. I can't imagine. I guess everything works differently, so you're able to absorb things in a different way. And you said over there it's a frequency,
Hmm.
not exactly a place, but a frequency. And you had a feeling of your energy, but you didn't see anything, right? So what was your, yeah, like what, how did you kind of sense things?
So so like there are astral realms. So there are astral realms. So people who go and see, there are dimensions where you have like it's like a holographic image of who you were. And there is visual realms like outside of like this plane, the earth plane. But I like didn't go to those. I went to another dimension in theta healing, which is what I teach now in the healing practice that I do. It's called the seventh plane. And so it's just it's very raw, pure, like just creation. So very just the energy of love. So I think there's different dimensions, and for some reason I didn't go to the other different dimensions. I just went there. And so it was like a sensory, uh so like I could see what was happening below, but it was more of like a feeling. And so like how we are talking right now, like there's my vocal cords, there's noise coming out of my mouth to transmit and to articulate what I experience. But on a very deep level, when you're in those planes, everything is a psychic connection, a psychic knowing. And so when you're on that plane, you're not you're not you're not in a physical body, so you're not physically talking. And so when you're not in a physical body, you're just transmuting through your thought. So everything is psychically connected. And so you're very connected to other energies, other souls. And so you're just kind of transmuting. Communications instant, you think and then you know that the other person is that. So, and also we have that ability here, but we've just lost it a little bit. And I feel like it's coming back. But there's certain things that um, like make us doubt our psychic ability, some things that get in the way of it. But I do feel like there's more now, especially with all NDEers, like kind of in this time and space talking about it. And I really do feel like there's like a spiritual awakening, an emotional awakening on a massive scale that's happening right now. Because this happened 25 years ago. And when I would say this to like just the average person, I would get like very like, what? And maybe it's just me, but I feel like in the past 25 years, people are just so much more open. This is so much more of an interest. And that's just my perception. I was told to share this, and then it was like 6 or 7 years ago, I got this big like push that was like, hey, you're not talking enough about this. Like speak up. And so I was like, well, what do you want me to do, God? Like, I don't know. And it's like, well, and so like Facebook and Instagram started to be something. And so I was like, okay, well, I'll speak and I'll just trust that whoever needs to hear this will hear it. And so I started to do that. And it was kind of it, it's like one of those things that my experience it was through me, but it wasn't the message wasn't necessarily just for me. And so that was very clear that, and at first when I was kind of scared to tell people because I'd never heard of a near-death experience before. And so I didn't tell my parents. They were already concerned about me, obviously. And they already had me going to see a counselor. So I was like, yeah, I'm not going to tell them all of this stuff. And actually the first person that I told it to was like a year and a half later. And it was one of my sister's friends. I was a horseback rider and I was like in a wheelchair, but I could crutch a little bit and I could sit on a horse. Obviously I couldn't ride a horse, but he took me out to his farm and he was like, oh, my uncle so-and-so is here. That's strange. I didn't know he was coming. And so I was talking to this uncle and I just got this like, I was a very shy person growing up. And so I would not talk a lot. Like I would, and there was this feeling, something came over me and I just started spilling, my guts around like I died. I felt this happened, da, 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 da. And my ego and my conscious brain was like, stop it. Don't talk. Why are you talking? Like the ego, oh, they're going to think you're weird. Oh, da, 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 da. But like, I could not stop. Like, I was like talking about it. And thank God, because he was like, he said, oh, me too. So like he had an NDE like 20 years prior when he was in his 20s. And so we were talking about the differences. So isn't that amazing that like my soul like was like, oh, you need to know that you're not alone in this. And like my soul had this consciousness. And if you can even think about it, like he just had a feeling to go to this family farm that day. And isn't that interesting that I was, coming at that same time? And so you can kind of think of this as, like there's a divine orchestration and probably part of my soul and probably part of his soul, like knew okay. So that always, because, our brain and our ego and like, we think, you know, I think we just forget like that there's a deeper power that's also operating within us and beyond us always.
I agree with that 100%. I feel like we're always connected and not just to the divine, the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, but others as well. And we come together at the right time. And we feel these urgings to speak about things or to do something. And so that's really cool that you experienced that and you were able to have that connection with him.
Yeah, it was so healing because I was like, I'd never heard of an NDE. And I was like, oh my God, people will think I'm crazy. And so, oh yeah, I had one too. And I was like, oh, really? Oh, okay. And yeah, and so I just started to talk about it. I would sometimes have an urge. There's a couple NDErs that I just knew that they had it too. They had the consciousness of one. And I was like, so I just started to share about it. And they're like, I had one too. And I was like, I knew it, you know? So it was like this kind of thing, you could kind of sense where someone was at. And then also, if like sometimes I would just sense if someone needed to hear it, or and so like whenever I got the intuitive thing that this person needs to hear something, then I would share it. And so I started to do that, and then started to share, and really this, that my NDE is like a huge, it is like the basis of, well, I think my life, but also my healing. So I think there's some NDEers that they have an NDE and then they're all healed. Like, what is it, Anita Morijani, like she, she had her NDE and then she was like cancer free, or, all of that. Well, like I had my NDE and I was like destroyed, like I was a mess, like physically, emotionally. And so it was like, then I just kind of applied what I felt in my NDE, and I was like, anything's possible. And I just disregarded, everyone's predictions about what my body was going to be like or what was my future. And I was like, well, they don't know the possibilities, they don't understand. So I would just focus on that, and also remember that, like, basically my consciousness is powerful, and in the vibration of love, miracles happen, healing happens, and just remembering that at a base level and applying that to myself, applying it to my body. I think, you know, and I see this in my practice. And I used to work with, I was a pain patient. I had chronic pain for a long time. And I think sometimes when we're in pain, then like unconsciously we can just get angry at our body because, it's causing us pain. And so I had these like moments after coming back into my body, of just these like divine, like kind of inspirations and awakenings during my healing process. Like one night I was just in so much pain and my leg was hurting and I couldn't sleep. And I used to be the best sleeper before all the trauma. And then I was such a light sleeper. And then I was in pain and I was like, oh, I just want to rest. And so I was just really frustrated. And I went on the floor just to move around. And there's this feeling, or this voice was like, put your hands on your leg. And I was like, okay. I put my hands on my leg, and my body, or my left leg, was like, why are you so angry at me? You call me ugly. You hate me because I cause you pain. Why are you being so mean to me? And I was like, oh my God, I didn't realize that unconsciously I like, I mean, I was in a wheelchair, in and out of a wheelchair. I mean, it did, change the way I moved. I couldn't do the things I love, but I didn't realize my brain, I was sending that to my body. And so I became aware that like my inner monologue and my ego, like it was like, I mean, my leg, it looks fine now, but like my leg was tore up. So it looked very purpley. There were scars all over it. It hurt. I had drop foot. So like my big toe, I had nerve damage on my big toe. But my left leg was like, look, I didn't do this to you. Stop directing your anger and your hatred and your mean comments towards me. And instead, we're all in this together, i.e., like, you're a part of me, I'm a part of you. Send me love. And it also, my left leg was talking to me, and it was like, look, you love right leg over there, and right leg's like on a vacation. I'm like, so when your body's healing, it's like working overtime. And so like my left leg was like working overtime, and my left leg's experience was, I was just angry. And of course, like, that anger is valid because it hurts, and there's a different process of processing trauma. And but like, I think a lot of people are just mean to their body. And I feel like a lot of people are just mean to themselves and they're not even aware of it. So while I was, as I started practicing my healing practice, I did Reiki, and then I did massage, and then I was working, and then I did my master's and my doctorate in integrative and Chinese medicine while doing functional medicine, while studying nutrition, and then all these mind body different modalities, subconscious healings, and always working with patients. Like I love working with patients and clients, and I would just be very aware, like, of a lot of people are just angry at the body for being sick. And my experience of my physical body when I came back was like, our physical body is just really just wants to heal. And actually our physical body is designed to heal. However, like, we stop the healing process by, hating our body, by not being in the vibration of love, by being scared, by being mean to it, by believing it can't heal, by our beliefs, our thoughts, and also how we treat it. And so I always say, I would tell my patients, like, I mean, if someone was just like mean and calling you names, would you perform? How would that relationship be? Like, would you really, like, so we have a relationship to our physical body, and we have to like love it. Not, we don't have to, but love. Everything heals, and heals better with love. And if you can connect to that vibration, even though it's hard when you're in a lot of pain, that in itself is healing. And then it also helps the body heal more. So how you talk to it. So so then in that moment, I was like, oh, beautiful left leg, my beautiful left leg. And I'm like, you're so beautiful. I love you so much. My amazing left leg. And it was interesting. I was in yoga teacher training, I think in 2013, and I still had some, my left toe there's still some nerve damage on it. And one of the trainers in yoga was, she was deconstructing a pose. So I was doing a yoga pose, and she like said, oh, this foot is lazy, or this leg is being lazy. And I was like, oh, I was like, time out. And I like took her aside, and I was like, so I really don't appreciate you calling my left leg lazy. I was like, I feel like that's a judgment, and the energy of that is not. And I was like, this leg has like been through so much, and like, don't call it lazy, like this. And so she kind of like looked at me like that, but it was like, no, like, you have to honor like this, even though the left foot isn't performing the way like it is so I just changed how I talk to myself. And I would just, rub my leg. I got trained in Chinese medicine and massage, and I just would spend hours just, rubbing it, healing it, sending it light. And it's pretty remarkable how much it's healed. And I really do think that uh, most people haven't tapped into their ability to heal. And maybe because they've internalized belief systems of, doctors are experts. And so they've like limited themselves off from their own potential. So I guess like I feel like part of my role is to remind people of their potential, and that if I can do it, you can do it. And also that everyone is worthy of support and love. And unfortunately, I think in our culture of medicine, and just our culture now, it's not predominantly a culture of love and respect and healing. There is, and I'm, you know, I'm, I I came, my trauma was from a very violent act and dishonoring act and low vibrational act. So I understand like the, I guess evil or the hatred or the violence or the roughness of it. And healing trauma is one of the scariest things I've done in my life. However, I feel like part of to really embody like my healing energy or like what I wanted to do on this earth, I had to like go through the lived experience of it, because when you live through something, there's a certain level of expertise that no one can ever teach you in a book, right? So I think in order to really understand trauma and to be able to heal it at a better level, I had to move through it and really experience, the limitations, the pain, the fear. Even though I know fear is fake on a soul level, living in a traumatized nervous system is felt like I was in hell, at times, and how the brain works and how the brain projects fear after it's had a lot of pain. So um, I always say that like my healing after my NDE was a very deep educational experience that informs how I work with people. And then from that lived experience, then I started to study the body, the nervous system, anatomy, physiology, medicine from many different perspectives so I can really understand it and really understand how to heal at a deep level, because there was different levels of my healing. And I think the last one was really healing the mind and the belief systems from trauma. Um, and and that's where theta healing came in. And theta healing, Viana, she created this, I think around 99 when I had my NDE. And so she channeled this, and she's actually survived, almost died several times too. So our healing stories kind of mirror each other. She's like, I think she's like 25 years older than me or something. She's older than me, but we kind of have similar, where she was supposed to die and then she healed herself, and then she's just been teaching people. So I found that modality and I just signed up for a class. And when I was in the class and reading the book, I was like, this is exactly what all of the information. So I was comparing what she was saying. I'm getting like goosebumps right now. Like I call them God goosebumps. I'm like, thank you. I'm like, okay. Um, and I was reading her books and I was like, yes, 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 that's exactly what I experienced on the other side. Yes, yes, yes. So intuitively, I was like, that's truth. That's truth. And I was like, awesome. And I was like, oh, great. I don't have to invent a healing system. She already created this. Awesome. So I went through all the training and I was like, oh my God, I'm like living in my heaven. Like, so I think once you've been over on that enlightened state and that love frequency, I was so wanting to be back there. And I think a lot of near deathers, we talk about how we miss it. We miss it, that vibration. However, I feel that as a collective, and also part of my soul mission was to create that within my body and to apply healing and to work to create that state of peace and health and healing within my body, which took a while because there's so much damage that had been done or just inflicted on my physical and my mind body. But over time, and then with theta healing and with the subconscious healing, my healing just accelerated. And I was like, with that, my healing became deeper and deeper. And I was able to really get like deeper in my body and not be in a trauma response, or disassociated from my body. I could actually be in my body and feel safe in my body. Because I think that's something a lot of women, especially women or anyone who's been, attacked or violated in any way, safety is a concept that was taken away from me. And so I I was trying to create this safety and this healing back in my body. And then with theta healing, that really took my trauma healing to a very deep level. And with theta healing, it's all about connecting to that unconditional love. And so it just perfectly aligned with all of what I felt. And I still have goosebumps, what I felt in my NDE. And so I was like, oh, great, this amazing being created these systems of healing. So I went through them and I got deeper in my healing. And then I started teaching and practicing. And I really feel that the subconscious, using that energy of unconditional love and applying it in the way that we do, I've just seen so much healing within my own self, and then seeing it in my clients who they either have physical issues, they have relationship issues, they feel disconnected, or they're empaths, and you know they don't, there's so many different variety of suffering or pain that comes my way. But it's just so amazing because consciousness is the base of everything, and your energy. And when you have a shift in your vibration and in your subconscious, then everything, your perception changes. When your perception changes, your physiology changes. When your physiology changes, then you're not in a state of stress. And so, you know, my soul, after my awakening, I call it my enlightened experience, my soul, my consciousness knew all of these things, but like I was put back into a very traumatized body. And I think now, like 25 years later, I feel like it was like partially by design, because like I deep at the core knew that fear wasn't real and all of this, but I had the strange experience of being in a traumatized body and mind, and PTSD, and experiencing that while my soul understanding the ultimate truth was very interesting. And then I was like, how do I heal this? So I think all of my detective healing discovery work happened after my NDE, because I was like, okay, so how do I heal? All these experts are saying I'm going to be kind of, like I just need to accept, I'm never going to be who I was. And on some level, that was true, the person, but I feel like I became more of who I am. And I feel the more we heal on a deep vibrational level, um, and in sacred spaces, like I want to, like in my classes, you create containers of just love and safety. And when people are put in that space, people heal really quickly. And so I just am excited to be alive, because I really feel that for the first time in history, we can really shift and create a lot of healing while people are still alive. Like, we don't have to die to feel that. Like, we can feel, because that's who we are now.
You were inspired to become a healer after your near-death experience, right? And so
Mhm.
you use several different modalities. Can you tell us a little bit about the different modalities, and do you make a personalized plan for each individual?
Yeah. So my practice has evolved as I've shifted. And so I practice Chinese medicine, acupuncture, functional medicine. So functional medicine is, looking at labs from a uh, from a functional, like preventative standpoint. So I did that and acupuncture. And then I was guided to just focus on theta healing the subconscious and really doing embodiment work and healing on the subconscious level. So I teach theta healing classes, and anyone can take theta healing classes. You don't have to be a healer. I actually have a lot of my clients that just want to be able to do it. So theta healing classes, you can be a healer, but one of the most empowering things is that you get to learn how to heal yourself. And I think this is a skill set that everyone should at least have some literacy in, just like everyone I feel like needs to have some emotional literacy on what their emotions are. And so I think that a lot of so my practice, I do individual sessions with clients, and then I teach. And so I teach healers. So I have some doctors, I have some energy healers, and then I just have regular people who just want to heal, who know that they've been blocking themselves somehow, and they on some level know that there has to be a way to heal. And so there's a curriculum in theta healing that I pull or I take people through. And then also I'm going to be releasing, I think in the summer, some like different programs around trauma, around just healing. But theta healing is like my main modality that I do. I've been trained in, gosh, like the list, I feel like people are like, what'd you do in your 20s and 30s? I'm like, go to school and attend seminars. Like, that's all I did. Like, I have like, I'm like any healing, any type of healing or training or education, I was like there, or studying with other doctors or other people. And so mainly I work one-on-one, and then just expanding my my school. It's called the Awakening Institute, and just really giving people the space and the opportunity to there's a lot of talk about manifesting and raising your vibe, but I feel the commentary on social media, on TikTok, on Instagram is very superficial, because really to deeply shift your vibration, you have to deeply heal. You have to, look at your, there's ancestral trauma that's in our DNA. There's also ancestral wisdom. We have past lives, and we have our soul. And so with theta healing, there's such deep, like root-based healing, not this like covering up spiritual bypassing stuff that frankly I did because I didn't know better earlier on in my healing. I thought I could yoga or meditate out my trauma or my emotional trauma. And you can't, you have to address it. And so theta healing is one of the most powerful ways that can really connect you to your divine source and heal the attachment trauma, being hurt, bullied, being gaslit, being neglected as a child, or trauma is not, there's big T's and little T's, and I had a big trauma, but a lot of people didn't have a supportive person in their life. Their parents were emotionally absent because they were working 3 jobs, or they weren't modeled healthy attunement, emotional attunement. So I really feel that this going and doing theta healing, you can deeply spiritually connect, and you can deeply heal wounds and belief systems that no longer serve you, And when you do that at a very deep level, then you can manifest whatever you want. And so it's just a very deep healing, and we have fun. And so I hope to keep on expanding, teaching more. I say if I could get a number of people through the first 5 classes, I feel like we would just shift humanity, because when I've just seen people change before my eyes, and we so profoundly affect each other. So the more people self-heal, the more they heal themselves. Then when you heal your vibration and heal yourself, you interact differently with other people, you see things differently, and you're not perpetuating limiting beliefs, you're not perpetuating non-love, hatred, and you're not doing it to yourself, right? And so I just feel like this is such a great time to be alive, because you can deeply heal yourself. And because we're so connected, when you heal yourself, that vibrates outwards in ways you don't even know.
If my viewers wanted to reach out to you, if they wanted to attend a class or receive healing, how can they find you?
So my website is www.drsnowden, snowden.com. And then I'm on Instagram, Dr. Allison Snowden, and I'm hoping to get my YouTube more up. So look for me there. And then connected to my website, there's also the Awakening Institute, and that has all the classes. And just invite your guests. I always love hearing feedback. And if you guys are interested or you feel that pull, or if something resonates, reach out. And we have classes always going. The beginning classes are usually in January and in the fall, but I'm open, to travel to teach places. And then my practice is mostly, I live in Miami, but most of my practice is on Zoom. And some people fly in to do intensives. And it's just amazing. I've just seen miracles happen, relationships, healing, deep emotional trauma, deep physical. And I'm also connected. I've been I don't do functional medicine or Chinese medicine now, but I feel like I am someone, I've been in integrative medicine. I have a lot of contacts in that. And so if anyone is just overwhelmed and doesn't know where to start in healing, I feel like I'm very good at really looking at what needs to be healed and where people's blind spots are, because I've been trained in so many different modalities and have worked with other doctors. I think a lot of times people just don't know what needs to happen first or where to go to. And I just really hope, I really want to cut that time, that confusion on how to heal, like, down, so they can actually do the work and feel better and get back to living their life. I feel that everyone has a gift, or I know that everyone has a gift to give, and also something to evolve and to learn in this life. And if people are confined by pain, by illness, by limiting beliefs, I feel like part of my job here is to really help free people from those things, so they can actually be the person that the world, like, so they can give their gift of whatever that is. Maybe that is to be, art, or to be a teacher, or to be a healer, or to invent something. And what I see is we're just going through an epidemic right now of chronic disease and mental illness. And I do feel that it is part of the deeper plan to understand who we are and create different systems of healings. However, like, I really I know that a lot of people, because I was there, I was confined by my trauma, and I couldn't be who I wanted to be because my brain, the chronic stress, and my body wouldn't let go of it. So I feel like I am an expert in that because I lived it. And I have a lot of understanding and compassion for it. And I think a lot of people need a lot of love and support, and they're not getting that in their relationships. They're not getting that from their doctors. And and that is hurting them from really healing. And so I love healing. I love teaching. And one of my friends were like, "Are you drained after working?" And I was like, "No, I'm not." Like I was like, "This is why I'm here. This is why I went through like those years of being literally in 10 out of 10 pain. Like I feel like I'm doing and living my soul mission, and I feel so privileged to hold sacred space for, these amazing human beings. Like human beings are so precious. Like, I mean, there's so much beauty in just each human being, and everyone has a story, and everyone is so worthy of support and love. And not everyone gets that, but I feel like we all can up the ante of sending love to each other, supporting each other, and just helping each other heal, because we heal in relationship. A lot of people are traumatized by others, and they are isolated. That's emotionally isolated because they don't want to get hurt again, or physically. People who are sick are isolated. And what I've known is we heal by really being seen, heard, and loved and witnessed. And a lot of people have been judged, disrespected, dishonored, and that has hurt their spirit, has hurt their mind, has hurt their emotional health. And so it takes a lot of courage to heal. And so just sending all of your listeners just so much love. Like, I hope they feel it just energetically, and also hope. And if I can do it, you can do it. There's nothing special about me. We all have access to this divine frequency. I just have a conscious memory of it, but we all come from this divine light, and it is all accessible. And if you don't know how to access it, then take a theta healing class. And I love teaching it. Like, it's my favorite thing to do. I taught a class this past weekend, and I like woke up and I was like skipping down the hallways. I'm like, I'm going to work. And I love it. Like, so, and so if that is calling to anyone who's listening, would love to have you. So send us an email, um, you know, write us on the website, or send me a message on Instagram. And everything's on the website. So all of it's there, and we're here to answer any questions.
Dr. Snowden, thank you so much for sharing all of your beautiful gifts with the world, your healing abilities and knowledge and wisdom, and your story as well. And I'm sure there's many, many more gifts that you share with the world, but your story here today was very impactful for me, and I know it will be for many, and all of your words of wisdom. So I appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much. And sending so much love to everyone listening. And yes, thank you so much.
Thank you for being here. I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you being here and supporting my channel. If you haven't already subscribed, please consider subscribing if you enjoy near-death experiences and other spiritually transformative stories. It helps the algorithm know that this information is useful and push it out to more people. And that's the goal, to get as many people to know that we are eternal spiritual beings and that we never die. Our bodies might die, but our essence will never die. And I want people to live with less fear. Let's all spread the word. Like, comment, subscribe, share, hit that little notification bell so you get all the notifications when my videos post. Thank you for all of your support. I'm sending love to you.